Dear all, welcome to Learn, Unlearn and Relearn, an online program in chemistry. I'm excited to have you in the class and look forward to your contributions in the learning process. I thank God for giving me this opportunity to do something at the cause of education.
Dear all, welcome back to this course on asymmetric synthesis. I'm very happy to meet you all once again. You are learning through Infolich, learn, unlearn and relearn. On completion of this module, you will learn to illustrate asymmetric synthesis, apply Cram's rule and Prolog's rule, analyze the Felkin-Hahn modification, develop the skill of solving problems in asymmetric synthesis. In our earlier video, we understood what is Cram's rule and we also understood what is Felkin-Hahn modification. Now in this video, we will try to analyze the Felkin-Hahn modification in a deeper context. And we know that in many cases there are addition of an organometallic reagent to a ketone or an aldehyde with an existing chiral center alpha to the carbonyl. If you look into this molecule, we already have a chiral center. So we already have a chiral center. There is an existing chiral center, and we are trying to attack this carbonyl carbon with a nucleophile. And in this case, the nucleophile is methyl. And we end up with two products. One will be a syn product, the other one will be an anti product. When an organometallic reagent attacks the carbonyl carbon, we end up with both syn and anti diastereomeric products, but only one of the product is predominant, and the predominant product is always predictable, and the model used to predict is called as the Felkin-Hahn model. Assuming that there isn't an unusually electronegative atom on the carbonyl next to the carbon next to the carbonyl carbon, the largest group prefers a conformation where it is perpendicular to the carbonyl carbon. So earlier case we were drawing the structure. Earlier case we were drawing the structure like this. So we had our R group here, we had our large group here, and we had our medium group here, and we had our small group here. So the same structure we are trying to draw in this way. So this is also another way of drawing the same structure, where we have our phenyl group perpendicular to the carbonyl carbon, we have our medium group at the top and our small group at the bottom. Now if we rotate this carbon 180 degree, we end up with another conformation where we have the phenyl group on the left hand side, and we have the small group at the top and medium group at the bottom. Now according to Felkin-Hahn model, we end up with two relatively competitive lowest energy conformation with the medium and small groups differing in their proximity to the carbonyl oxygen. Not surprisingly, the nucleophile prefers to attack away from the larger group according to Felkingham model. So you can see here the attack takes place from the side of the small group. So there are two possibilities. The attack can happen from this direction, or the attack can happen from this direction to this carbonate. But since this group is a medium sized group, the nucleophile prefers to attack from the side of the small group at a Bürgi-Dunitz angle. Therefore, the nucleophile attacks from this side. Now, when the nucleophile attacks from this side, we see the OH group is pushed towards this side. So this is your nucleophile, and we have our hydrogen, right? Okay. Now there are two possibilities for the nucleophile to attack the attack nearest to the small group, or for it to attack nearest to the medium group. The nearer to the small group attack is preferred, and therefore one diastereomer is only preferred. Now we have to keep this in mind. In most cases, the large group will be the part of the main chain in the product, and the incoming nucleophile will be on the other end of the main chain. In these cases, the major diastereomer will be a syn diastereomer. So according to the Felkingham model, we need to understand that when the attack takes place from the smaller side, we end up with a syn diastereomer. Now let us learn how to convert this particular Newman projection into a wedge representation. You see, the attacking nucleophile methyl and the larger group phenyl on the other carbon, they are anti to each other. So they are anti to each other, and you can see this methyl group and this OH group are syn to each other, and therefore we convert this Newman projection into this form. Now this conversion process will be of greater help when you try to solve problems. We will look that in detail. We can look that in detail in the later course. And you can see here the attack has taken place from the smaller side, from the side of the smaller group, and we end up with a syn product. Now if the attack would have taken place from the other way, so let us see how it would have happened. So if the attack has taken place from the other side, let me go to this. If the attack had taken place from the other side, we would have ended up with this product. See, I am taking this particular model. So the attack has happened. Therefore, I will put my nucleophile here. So I have my nucleophile here. I have my OH group here. I have my hydrogen here. I have my phenyl group here. I have my hydrogen here. Sorry. Okay, so I have my hydrogen here, and I have my methyl here, and now we can see my phenyl group and my nucleophile are anti to each other. My phenyl group and my methyl are anti to each other, and my OH and my methyl are also anti to each other. Therefore, this product is what we call it as an anti-product. So two possibilities: either you can end up with a syn diastereomer or an anti-diastereomer, but in this case the molecule prefers to form a syn diastereomer. Once again I will repeat the same phenomenon. So we have a molecule here where the nucleophilic attack is going to take place. The nucleophile here is the methyl group, and the nucleophile attacks this particular carbon. It results in the formation of a new asymmetric center. This molecule can have two stable conformation, but the most preferred conformation is something different. So it can have two stable conformation where the carbonyl group is perpendicular to the phenyl group, but the nucleophile prefers to attack using this particular conformation, and when it prefers to attack, we end up with a syn product. When the nucleophile attacks from the opposite direction, we end up with an anti-product. So please remember, your nucleophile and the phenyl group, they run or they remain in the largest carbon chain, and they are anti to each other. Let us try to evaluate another situation. Now what happens when the carbon bear atoms like oxygen, nitrogen or sulfur? Now the first thought will be that the nucleophile prefers to attack from the side opposite to the electronegative group. Yes, and if this attack takes place, so when the nucleophile attacks from the side opposite to the electronegative group, you can see this particular group will be pushed up, this oxygen will be pushed up, and therefore you end up with a Felkin-Hahn product. And again this attack takes place again through a Bürgi-Dunitz angle. Now this would be true only when the reagent does not have an additional complexing site. For example, in sodium borohydrate, the sodium ion cannot form a bivalent complex. On the other hand, when we use a zinc borohydrate, so see this happens in a sodium borohydrate, NaBH4. Now when we have a zinc borohydrate, this could lead to a divalent chelation complex between the carbonyl oxygen and the electronegative atom. So the metal can form a chelating complex. Now this is called a Cram chelation complex, which leads to a Cram chelation product. And now when that happens, you can see here there is going to be a difference in the stereochemistry of the products. Okay, let us take the first situation where there is an electronegative atom or group at the site alpha to the carbonyl group, and there is a slight change. Now for the purpose of this course, we will limit the electronegative group only to halogens or 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 NR2 or SR groups. This slight change is that the electronegative group now becomes equivalent of the large group in the Felkin-Hahn model. You can see here, so the nucleophile prefers to attack from the side opposite to that of the electronegative group and resulting in the Felkin-Hahn product. Now the reason for this is that the energy of the carbon halogen sigma star antibonding orbital is rather low, and so it overlaps with the pi star of the carbonyl to make a new lower energy LUMO orbital, lower unoccupied molecular orbital. And what this really means is that this conformational arrangement is more reactive than any other. In our earlier Felkin-Hahn model, we found that this place was occupied by a larger group. Now when the carbonyl carbon contains an electronegative group, this place is going to be occupied by the electronegative group. So with this change in mind, the Felkin-Hahn type addition now proceeds as before. Now what that tends to mean that in most cases the medium group ends up being part of the product's main chain, and most often this means that the anti-diastereomer is the one that is formed. Now I take up this molecule where I have a carbonyl group hydrogen, and I'm gonna treat it with my butyl lithium. So butyl group is my nucleophile. Now when the attack takes place, now we have to carefully draw the Felkinand model where my electronegative group lies perpendicular to the carbonyl carbon. I have my medium group, I have my small group. Again, this particular molecule can have two transition states, and this particular transition state is preferred. So when my nucleophile attacks the carbonyl carbon, you can see here I have my butyl group here, so I have my OH here, so my OH will be pushed, and I have my hydrogen here, and now you can see my butyl group and my N dimethyl group are anti to each other. Okay, so they are anti to each other. Okay. And a diastereomeric product is formed. So this is my OH. So you can see here my OH and my N dimethyl group, they are anti to each other. Okay, so I'm just redrawing this structure. So when I redraw this structure, okay, so I end up with an anti-diaster. Let us take another example. The alpha heteroatom substituted cases can be more complex for one additional reason, that these heteroatom based functional groups are Lewis bases for metals. As a result, with some organometallic systems, the carbonyl carbon and the X group will combine to chelate the metal, and this changes the addition pathway significantly. Now when this chelation happens, we are going to end up with a different isomer. When does this chelate does not occur? When the metal is lithium and sodium and potassium, or when the oxidation states are +1, the reaction follows a Felkinand model. Now when does this chelation occurs? When the metal is divalent and like Zn2 plus, Cu2 plus, etc. And this cramp chelation control leads to a reversal in selectivity. Now these two situations arises only in the case when we have an heteroatom in the alpha carbon adjacent to the carbon which is adjacent to the carbonyl group. Now in this case, if we look into this molecule, let us try to draw this in our Newman projection. So I have drawn my hetero group here. So this particular group I have made it as R, and this chain is over here. So now this is my medium group, this is my hetero group, and this is my R, and my nucleophile attacks. Now I have a zinc. Okay, so I'm using my zinc. So when I use my zinc borohydride, I'm actually doing a reduction, hydride reduction. I'm adding H minus to my carbonyl carbon. So my hydrogen gets attached here. So I have my OH here, I have my R here. You can see this. Now if I could redraw this structure, so what I have done is I have rotated this. Okay, so I have rotated this. When I rotate this, my OH comes over here, my R moves to the other side, and my hydrogen is here. You can see my OH and my hetero group they are anti to each other. Okay, they are anti to each other. and this is my Felkin-Ann product. So this is my Felkin-Ann product. Now what happens in the chelating cases is that this feature forces the X group to be held close to the carbonyl carbon, closest to the position almost to the position of M group in the Felkin-Ann. Now here, since nucleophilic attack is still about the Bürgi-Dunitz trajectory, this will invert the result from the electronegative alpha group situation, and in most common cases you end up with a Syn as the major product. Now in this case you can see here, when I use zinc, I am ending up with 95% of my CRAM product. I am getting only 5% of my Felkin-Ann product. So what I have drawn here is Felkin-Ann product, which is only 5%. Okay, where my electronegative group and my OH group are anti to each other. Now we need to understand why and how this CRAM chelate products becomes a major product in this particular situation, and that is what we are going to see here. Let me take up this molecule. So in this molecule I am going to add up methyl. Okay, now I have my electronegative or my hetero group here perpendicular to the carbon. Now when I add dimethyl zinc, my zinc and my electronegative group, they form a chelated complex. Now when this happens, you can see my OMe group moves away, and still my nucleophilic addition takes place from this direction. Now when this attack takes place, my OH will be pushed here, so I have my OH here, my hydrogen is pushed here, I have my methyl group here, and my OMe is still here, I have my methyl and my hydrogen. Now when this occurs, when this chelation occurs, I end up with a Syn as major product. Okay, so this is my Syn product. Now how to correlate these two structures? How to correlate these two structures? You can see here I have my methyl group, that is my nucleophile, and my medium size group and my nucleophile, which is the attack has taken place from this side. So they are on the same chain, and they are anti to each other. So they are anti. So even in this structure they are anti to each other. And you can see my OH and my electronegative group are Syn to each other. So here also they are Syn to each other. So in this way you can predict the stereochemistry or the outcome of the product. So here again there is a description of what exactly happens. My electronegative group and my carbonyl oxygen forms a chelated complex with my metal. Now the attack takes place by Bürgi-Dunitz angle of 103 degree, and we have a CRAM chelation transition state, and we end up with a CRAM chelated product, and Syn would be the major product. So when need to understand, so according to Cram's rule, Syn diastereomer is the major product, and if the carbon adjacent to the carbonyl carbon contains an electronegative atom, we end up with anti-diastereomer, and if that electronegative group has the capability to form a chelated complex, then we end up with a Syn as the major product. Now what would have happened if the attack has taken place from from the other side? If the attack has taken place from the other side, we would have ended up with the minor product, which is our anti product. Or in other words, if the attack has taken place without chelation, so this is simply Felkin-Ann. Okay, so if I had performed the reaction using my Felkin-Ann model without any chelation, I would have ended up with an anti product, but the product that we observed in this particular reaction is a Syn product, and the reason for the formation of the Syn product is your chelated complex. Let us try to understand the next concept called Prologue's rule. Prologue's rule correlates the configuration of chiral alcohols with those of alpha hydroxy acids, especially mandelic acid and atrolactic acid. We can correlate the isomer, we can correlate the stereochemistry of the mandelic acid and atrolactic acid formed with that of the chiral alcohol, and therefore we can find out what would be the stereochemistry of the chiral alcohol. The process is very simple. It generally relates to the Grignard addition to chiral pyruvates. So this is our chiral pyruvate, and we perform a Grignard addition, and the rule has been applied for asymmetric synthesis of alpha hydroxy acids, and for assigning the configuration of a secondary or a tertiary alcohol. The arrangement of these two carbonyl groups anti to each other can be rationalized. Now the negative ends of these dipoles would prefer to be as far as possible, and we can see there will be two lone pairs of electrons. Okay, so you can see two lone pairs of electrons sit on ether oxygen like rabbit hair, and the keto carbonyl would orient between these two rabbit hair, and the attack from the small side group is again an extension. So the attack takes place from the side of the smaller group, which is an extension of Cram's rule. Let us understand Prologue's rule taking up a very simple example. Now the entire process goes like this. When phenyl glyoxylic acid is esterified with an optically active alcohol, for example like menthol, and when that ester, see, when you treat any acid with an alcohol, it gives an ester. Now I take that ester, and that ester is reduced with some reducing agent, say sodium amalgam or sodium borohydrate. Mandelic acid enriched with one of its isomer is obtained. So what I do is, in the first case, I take phenyl glyoxylic acid, I treat it with a chiral alcohol, I end up with an ester, I reduce that ester, and I end up with mandelic acid. Now in this case, when I treat, in this case I mean in the case of menthol, when I finally reduce it, so what I have done is I have taken phenyl glyoxylic acid, treated with minus menthol, I got an ester, I reduced it with sodium amalgam, I got a mandelic acid enriched with R isomer, okay, after the complete hydrolysis of the process. Now when the reduction step, instead of doing a reduction, when the reduction step is replaced by a Grignard addition of methyl magnesium halide, configurationally stable atrolactic acid is produced. Okay. So when I do a Grignard addition, I end up with atrolactic acid instead of mandelic acid. Now this Prologue's rule correlates the configuration of the hydroxy acid, that is my atrolactic acid, with that of the alcohol which I had taken initially. Now let me say I am unaware, or I do not know what is the stereochemistry or configuration of my alcohol, but I perform all these steps in a sequential way. I end up with an atrolactic acid, and if I can find out the stereochemistry or configuration of my atrolactic acid, I can correlate that configuration with that of my alcohol whose configuration is not known. One has to remember that. So when we try to work out the Prologue's rule, we have to remember this point, very crucial point. The ester of the phenyl glyoxylic acid is so written that the two carbonyl groups are anti-periplanar in orientation. This is my phenyl glyoxylic acid. What I do is I take up two alcohols. Please listen to this process very carefully. As far as Prologue's rule is concerned, I have to take phenyl glyoxylic acid, I have to take some alcohol, a chiral alcohol. Okay. Now this chiral alcohol is, yes, let us say, where I have my numbering 1, 2 and 3, I have my large, medium and small group. So since my small group is oriented towards me, and when I number it I end up with 1 2 3, so I move in a clockwise direction. Okay, but it is the small group is oriented towards me, so I have to take the opposite configuration, therefore it is yes. In this case I move from 1 2 and 3, and my small group is moving away from me, so I have to take as such, so it is R. So first step in understanding Prolog's rule is that the Prolog's rule states that you have to take up phenyl glyoxylic acid, treat it with a chiral alcohol. When I treat it with a chiral alcohol, I end up with a product. So I have taken my phenyl glyoxylic acid, I had treated it with my chiral alcohol. Okay, so I have treated it with, say, S alcohol, I have treated it, and I end up with this ester. And when you try to draw the structure of this ester, you should remember that you have to draw the phenyl group and the large group anti to each other. So please remember this point very carefully. You should always try to draw the phenyl group and the larger group anti to each other. Now the next step is addition of methyl magnesium bromide. My methyl group prefers to attack from the smaller side, from this direction. So attack from this direction is not preferred because you have a larger group and a medium group. So here the Cramp's rule applies, so it prefers to attack from the small side. When I attack my methyl group here, so to this carbon, I end up with my methyl group pointing towards me because the attack has taken place from my direction, and I have my OH group, that is my oxygen will be pushed to the other side, so my OH group moves away. Next step is hydrolysis. I perform an hydrolysis, and when I do that, okay, when I perform the hydrolysis, when I perform the hydrolysis, I end up with this particular acid. You can see I have cleaved here this bond, so I have my methyl group pointing towards me, my OH is moving away from me, so I end up with S atrolactic acid. Therefore I can be very sure that I can fix the configuration of my alcohol as S if I am going to end up with S atrolactic acid. On the other hand, when I try to perform the reaction with R isomer, so I've prepared the ester using my R isomer, where I have my medium size group pointing towards me and my small group is moving away from me. Now in this case what happens, my nucleophile prefers to attack from the side of the smaller group, you can see here, because this is medium size, so my nucleophile prefers to attack from this side, so the attack does not take place in this direction, so the attack is not happening in this direction, the attack takes place from the opposite side. When that happens, my methyl group is moving away, so you can see here, and my OH is pushed towards me, so I have my OH here, and when I hydrolyze it, I end up with an R isomer. Now I can correlate from my atrolactic acid that my alcohol will have the R configuration. So Prolog's rule is very simple. There are only 3 steps. You take the phenyl glyoxylic acid, you try to treat it with a chiral alcohol, then you perform addition reaction with methyl magnesium bromide, you do an hydrolysis, and you have to check, or you have to predict the configuration of the atrolactic acid that you obtain. So based on the configuration of the atrolactic acid obtained, you can fix the configuration of the chiral alcohol which you have taken. To summarize, in this module you had learned to define asymmetric synthesis, a process where a new chiral center has been induced. You had also learned to illustrate Cramp's rule, which states that the carbonyl carbon is flanked between the medium and small size group, and the nucleophilic addition takes place at the side of the smaller group. And later you learn to interpret the Felkinand modification, which also stated that the addition takes place through a Burgi-Dunitz angle. And you also learn to construct the chelate model, which had two possibilities, where when you have an electronegative group you can have a Felkinand addition, and if the electronegative group and the metal can form a chelate complex, you end up with a Gram chelate modification. And you also learnt how to define and explain Prolog's rule. I hope this course would have helped you to understand the concept of asymmetric synthesis, Cram's rule, Felkinand modification, the chelate model, and Prolog's rule. We will meet soon through another video where we will try to understand how all these concepts can be applied in problems. Thank you very much, and God bless.